Hey guys, this is Seatman Sports, and today we're going to be talking about the XFL.
Jeff Brom, how in the world are you starting this game tonight after taking that hit just 6 days ago?
Well, let me answer that question by asking you two questions. One, is this or is this not the XFL? Yes, it is. Two, do I or do I not currently have a pulse? Yes, I do. Let's play football.
And no, not that XFL. The new XFL, although it's still owned by Vince McMahon. They relaunched it this year, and a lot of people were actually initially excited about it. We're always initially excited about new football leagues coming in because, if we're being honest, this is a country that cannot get enough football. And when it was first announced the league was coming out, I definitely was very skeptical about it because we've seen many leagues try to compete with the NFL and they almost all fail. I mean, the AAF just last year didn't even complete a full season. But when I heard that the XFL was going to have partnerships with ESPN and ABC and Fox to broadcast their games, I was actually really surprised because those are primetime networks. They actually could get decent ratings. And in the first week, they did. They averaged 3.1 million viewers in the first week. There was actually a lot of excitement about the XFL, and I tuned in for at least some of the games. The second week, it dropped off a bit. It went down to 2.1, and in the third week, it went down to 1.6 million viewers. Now, initially, you could say, well, this is a complete failure, but this is a new league. It doesn't have a fan base. It doesn't have any loyal customers yet for the most part, and so this was probably something that they expected and something that was built in. But what I think they need to do is they need to build sustainability. And how can the XFL do that? It's going to be really hard to do because competing with the NFL in anything, which the NFL is king, is always going to be extremely difficult. But I think if the XFL does a couple of things, they have a chance to have real sustainability and maybe be like what the Arena Football League was like to the NFL and have a 15, 20-year run where they can actually put a good product out there and people care and pay attention. So right now, the XFL has 8 teams. 7 of those teams are in cities that already have NFL teams. The one city that isn't is St. Louis. Now, I did some research beforehand. I looked up the average price of tickets for every single XFL team. Most of the other teams were around $35 to $40. For the St. Louis team, the lowest one you could get was $55. And watching on TV, I realized there were just more fans and more people into it in St. Louis. What's the difference with St. Louis? Not only does it not have an NFL team right now, but it recently had one taken from them as well. So there is an interest in football there, and people do miss it. And I think the one thing the XFL needs to capitalize, which is the same thing the MLS has done, is build in markets and cities that either don't have a lot of pro teams already, or especially for the XFL, do not have pro football teams already. If you can tap into those markets, you can probably build a more sustainable product because people in those cities will go to games and will care about them. I understand initially why they wanted to go for these big markets. I mean, big markets is what wins at the end of the day. But if you can tap into some of those smaller markets and get that local interest built up with those teams, I think they have a real shot at sustaining a level of interest that can keep them competitive with other sports leagues. The XFL also can't be the NFL. They have to be different. And look, I give them credit. They're trying to be different than the NFL. There's so much transparency. You can hear the coaches calling the plays on the broadcast. There's interviews with players right after they threw a touchdown or threw an interception or made a mistake. I mean, it's kind of unreal, to be honest, for what we're usually used to. You can see the process of the replay review, which I thought was awesome. The rules are different too. They have a different kickoff, which I really, really love actually. And then also instead of an extra point, you have a 1-point line at the 3-yard line, a 2-point line at the 5-yard line, and a 3-point line at the 10-yard line. Now, it frustrates me a little bit that teams are going really conservative in that route and only going for the 1-point line, but still, it's something different. It's something exciting, and it adds another dynamic to it. They can't just put out the same kind of football the NFL does and expect for it to be the same result. They have to do something different, and I credit them for that. Going forward, can they make their game even a little more different or a little more transparent where they can draw in the fan and say, hey, I really want to watch this? I've always thought a fully mic'd up version of the NFL would be incredible, and I would subscribe to something like that, especially if it was uncensored. If the XFL does something like that, they could draw in a lot of people. And it would be really interesting to see how many people would be interested in a complete all access to a football game. One problem I did have with the XFL is it started so close to the end of the NFL season, a week after the Super Bowl. I think a lot of people have football fatigue. I have it as well. At the end of football season, I'm like, all right, I'm ready to watch some basketball. I'm ready to watch some baseball. I think if they were to start the season a month later, they'd be able to get the people who are sitting there like, I have a little bit of an interest for football. I want to watch it. And so I think the gap they had between themselves and the NFL season wasn't separated enough. I think if the XFL was able to do it maybe 3 or 4 weeks after the NFL regular season, I think they could draw up a lot of interest for people who really have an interest for football and really miss it. The biggest thing the XFL needs to do, and I feel like this hasn't been talked about nearly enough when it comes to the sustainability of the league, and just in general, is the fact that they need to try to attract young college players to play for their league. Think about it. Maybe you're not going to get the Trevor Lawrence of college football to come play in the XFL. But if you can get good sophomore, junior, senior players to leave their schools, whether it's Clemson or Ohio State or Alabama, and come play for the XFL, almost see it as like an apprenticeship. And hey, I can't make money in college, but I can make it in the XFL. And look, it's not a lot right now. A lot of the average salaries are $40,000 and $50,000. But if they can build some sustainability and maybe give, people a chance to make $70,000, $80,000 for a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid, I think a lot of people would take that. And if they could become somewhat of a pipeline to the NFL and also, build up these prospects and say, hey, you're going to play in a professional environment and be around professional coaches, and you don't have to worry about the BS that has to do with the NCAA, I think then you're like, okay, now this top recruit that I remember from 2 years ago, I'm not going to see him at Clemson anymore, but I can see him in the XFL. I can see him on the DC Defenders. And that could be legitimately exciting for people. And if it could be somewhat of a minor league to the NFL, which is what the NCAA has always been, then people could start watching for draft reasons, for prospect reasons. Right now, the XFL is really just a bunch of NFL cast-off. And so I really think they need to capitalize on that. Now, would it be a difficult transition for college players? Yes, because these are going to be grown men and professional athletes. And it probably would be harder than playing in NCAA. But I think in this day and age, when we're seeing a lot of players pass up college basketball, for example, a guy like LaMelo Ball, and play overseas professionally, I think there's the opportunity for the XFL to do that, and they need to capitalize on that. I don't think they can just be a bunch of NFL rejects. I think what they need to do is become a system where you can have young prospects that the NFL will actually want to draft and go to your product to see, and that fans will want to see them as well. Look, nothing's ever going to be the NFL. The NFL is by far king in this country, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And trying to compete with it is almost impossible. But the XFL, if it does the right things, can build a sustainable product. And I think if they listen to just some of the points I made, they may just have a shot. Hey guys, I need you to help me build sustainability. If you like these videos, I need you to subscribe to my channel, Seatman Sports, and give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Also, please tell me in the comment section one thing you would want the XFL to do different than what the NFL does. Thank you guys for watching. This is Seatman Sports.